Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight, and welcome to the Ann Arbor District Library. Tonight, I don't think he needs a lot of introduction, but this is Chasten Buttigieg. He is here to talk about his book, Papa's Coming Home. And then we have April Bear here as our interlocutor. She's going to be asking the questions, and I know some of you submitted questions ahead of time. If you could just take a moment to please silence your cell phones, so that way that doesn't interrupt during the presentation. And then Literati is here selling books in the back, and Chasten will be doing a book signing afterwards. If you want, so all of the books are pre-signed, but if you want them personalized, they'll put your name on a Post-it note at the back table, and you can do that after the presentation. So please, let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Happy to be here. I wanted to go to Zingerman, so I figured, might as well tack on a book event.
I mean, if you need a reason. Congratulations on the book. It is so lovely. So lovely. And I know personally some families to whom this book meant a lot. So really, really awesome. I don't know if the Glaze and Buttigieg kids are quite aware of how made they have it, having a creative like Chasten as one of their primary bedtime storytellers. Some of you may know that there's some theater background here, and if you haven't seen the book yet, it's so warm and so sweet, and you can really feel everything that you would want for anyone's family in the book. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do you mind saying a little bit about, people may be aware that you had adapted your memoir as a YA prior to this.
Yeah.
Do you mind saying what gave you the impetus for a kid's book, just
Sure.
for littles?
Sure. I started writing this book about 2 years ago, and it was really born out of frustration that I couldn't find books like this. One of the best perks of being an author is you can ask for free books from your publisher, so I kept bothering them. I was saying, could you send me some books that might have two dads, or could you send me a book with a family that looks like ours? And they'd say, oh yeah, we'll get around to it, we'll send you a box. And then I kept pestering and saying, like, me again, do you have any of those books? Because we're reading like 100 books every day to our kids, right? But I would love to have a book with a family that looks like ours. And we were coming up short. There are a couple cool books. There's one called Bathe the Cat, which I really like, which is just two dads going about their day, and the joke is that someone has to bathe the cat. And that's what I wanted, a day in the life story where the difference wasn't up front. That we get a lot of books that talk about difference and how difference is okay, and there's absolutely a place for those books and a need for those books. But when I was reading books at bedtime with my kids, I didn't want to be having a much larger conversation or open the door to having a larger conversation. I just wanted a cute, funny story with a family that looked like ours. So I started thinking about different ideas. These characters came very easily because they're obviously, featured after two kids that I like very much. And I was actually on an airplane when I wrote it. And I was thinking about how excited they might be to have one of their dads coming home. And that's where the idea was born. And so we have read this book 1,000 times. Luckily, I got my copy a couple months ago from the printer. But as all toddlers do, they have cycled out of this book now. And we're on to something else.
But when they did see it for the first time, I'm dying to hear what their reaction was.
It was so cool. Dan Taylor, the illustrator, he is UK-based, and I wish he was here because he really deserves his flowers on this book tour. He did such a beautiful job. When I got some of the early artwork back, I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I opened up the PDF, and Penelope had just come into the kitchen. That's my daughter. And she said, that's me, that's Gus, that's Papa,
Stop.
That's Daddy, and even our dog, Buddy. And it was so cool that she saw herself in the book immediately. And I hadn't told them, like, I'm writing this book and it's about you. I was just, kind of working on this in private by myself, and then the artwork came back. And for her to just see herself in it immediately was so special. And I love that we got to that point, where toddlers can get to that point where they've read the book so many times, or you've read the book so many times, that they can just tell you what's happening on every page, word for word. And that's where we got with this book. That's just really cool to know that she sees herself in this.
stick around for the Goodnight Moon sing-along after the book signing.
Please,
I know
no.
many of you. Well, no. You know, writing for younger people, as you did with your YA adaptation, I think a lot of us can, you know, have very distinct memories. You can sort of visualize your audience really immediately. I think it's harder for some of us, not all of us, to immediately adapt a story for littles. And I wondered if there were things, new storytelling skills or any experiences you had as a parent that informed how you figured out what this should sound like.
Oh, interesting. So writing the children's book was difficult in the sense that you can write a whole children's book on one page in a Word document. You're filling 32 pages, but you can fit all of that text into one page. So when I was writing the first book and then adapting that for a YA audience, working with an editor, you're poring over like your past trauma and all these stories, and you're digging deep into the work, and you have this constant back and forth. And with a children's book, it's really like yes or no, right? You've got it or you don't. There has to be that sort of kind of hook or the surprise at the end, the thing that you build to. And so that was the hard thing to always be searching for. And the hardest part about doing this was kind of just the isolation. Like with the YA book, it's like, I think I want to tell this story. I'd write a couple, 100 pages, send it out, and they'd say, no, cut that chapter, go. And you kind of just have that teamwork and that relationship with an editor. With the children's book, you send it back, and they say, no, or try again, right? And my poor husband heard me so many nights. I'd be like making mac and cheese at the stove, and he'd be like, ooh, what if it's this? And then I would get the classic Pete. He'd go, yeah, which basically meant that idea is terrible. So I was constantly going back to the drawing board. But
everyone needs an editor, but do they need to be married to one?
Right. I guess I knew that I wanted the family in the book to resemble this like massive outpouring of love, that I wanted the book to just feel so loving, that these kids are so loved, and that the most important thing at the center of the book is the love they have for one another. And if you've had a chance to read the book quickly before the event, in the end of the story, there's this conversation about how it is the love of family over the material things that the papa is so excited to come home to. And I know that there's a lot of hijinks in the middle, which is very fun to write, which is also sort of fictionalized parenting. I get it. Like, we're not all that perfect every day. But that's what I wanted the kids to feel in the book, was just all of that love.
Do you really have 7-layer cake skills?
No, absolutely not. Again, fiction.
Right. I was curious to know, you mentioned that the kids have sort of cycled on past this one after the first 500 or so readings. Do you mind sharing what they're into these days?
Oh, man. They're really into Peter Rabbit right now.
Oh, so sweet.
And we have kids here, so I will be careful how I describe this. It has a weird beginning, right? When you as a parent, you start to analyze all those texts, and you're like, huh. The mom's basically like, okay, have a great day, and don't go into that garden because your dad was turned into a pie. Be careful. And like, we've read that book so many times, and I feel like the first night when we all like squeeze onto Gus's bed, so like a twin-sized bed, and all four of us are reading the story, right? And the kids are here, and Pete and I are next to each other. I remember the first night we picked up Peter Rabbit, and that line comes up, right? Like, careful in Mr. McGregor's garden, your father was turned into a pie by Mrs. McGregor, and we both looked at each other like, oh my God. And the kids just like breeze past it. So they're really obsessed with Peter Rabbit, and then they're also, they get to go to library at preschool, and so now we get all these really random books like the Encyclopedia of Dinosaurs, and like that's what Gus wants to read before bed, right? It's not a story, it's just we're like sounding out dinosaur names, and then he falls asleep, which is hilarious. Much harder for me.
Might just want to skip over Velveteen Rabbit entirely. A little pro tip. My daughter's a teenager now. Don't. Yeah. Were there books that either that that you were aware of as a kid that you remembered very fondly that contributed to how you thought about this book?
Oh gosh, I don't think I thought back to a book. I was really taken by the book The Rabbit Listened, actually, when I was reading this, or writing this, so about 2 years ago. Is anyone familiar with that book? It's
Got some
so
hands.
beautiful. Made me cry all the time. It's a story about a boy who is building a tower and it falls down, and all of these animals come along and tell him how he should process his feelings. And I think the snake tells him he should knock over somebody else's, right? Or the kangaroo. I'm forgetting now because it's been about 2 years. One animal tells him he should stomp about it and he should hit somebody else about it. And all of these animals are giving him advice, and then the rabbit comes along. And just stays. And the boy feels the warmth of the rabbit, and the rabbit just listens to the boy as he processes his feelings. And it was that emotion of the book. I remember feeling that way writing this book. I think the most important thing that could come from this story is that warmth and that sense of love, that at the end of the book you just feel touched and happy that you've read the story. So I was really moved by that book, and I think if anyone has kids about my age, that 2 to 4-ish who are dealing with big feelings, I really love that book, and it's beautifully illustrated.
I hadn't thought about this until just now, but so many times as parents, what we want to do is leap in and offer, well, honey, what about this or what about this? You want to fix it for them. And this is true sometimes when they're little. It's certainly true sometimes when they're older. Sometimes it's really, maybe more often than not, it's just about that listening.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that was coming up for me a lot as I was reading the book was the fact that some of us have been around long enough that we've seen a lot of change in acceptance of families. And especially, families in the LGBTQ plus community. And I think there are some of us who kind of came to feel like things were settled. And then you reach a time in life when maybe things don't feel quite so settled. I just wondered, obviously it was important for your family to have, a story that looked like your family. Yeah. But were there hopes that you had about this book getting included in libraries like this one or other story collections that kids would have access to?
Yes, and I won't be naive. I'm not going to say, no, I just wanted to write a book that looked like my family. I kind of understand the tightrope that I walk sometimes. I did just want a book that looked like our family. That was really important to me, to know that you have the ability to write this book, and you have some folks who are really interested in publishing it. You should do it. And I just wanted to do it because I thought it would be really cool for Gus and Penelope to have that. At the same time, I'm very aware that people pay attention to everything that I do publicly. And I have already been asked multiple times about this being a political book. It's not a political book. It is a very modern day American family going about their lives. And if someone wants to make it political, that's for them to explain. But I did not set out to write a book for it to be political. In fact, I mentioned I wrote it 2 years ago. It takes a long time to bring a children's book out into the world.
Right.
And I've been asked, did you write this in response to the Supreme Court case? Well, that would have been a very fast publishing process.
Which does not happen.
And I won't divulge into politics too much, but yes, I do understand that one, it could make a difference. And two, some folks might want to make it into something that it's not. But that's for those people to explain, and then I'm happy to engage in that conversation. I think this is a great book for every family, because at the end of the day, there is a wonderful lesson about the unconditional love that we show our kids, and that we prioritize those relationships over material things. It just so happens to have a family that looks like mine, and maybe not yours. And I grew up, only reading books with families that looked a certain way. And I think we need thousands of more books like this because, like I said, I think it's pretty cool that it resembles a modern American family, and there are lots of different types of families. And I think every kid is deserving of a book that looks like theirs.
Let us also praise the books that show some representation of busy families where parents travel sometimes.
Yeah.
The book doesn't exactly address this, and in the story we can kind of tell that Daddy looks a little more like you and Papa looks a little more like Pete. I just wondered if there's anything that you would share, two parents with very busy lives and yet still staying very engaged. How you two get through it and stay connected with the kids.
I think, like most families, the work-life balance is a constant struggle. Obviously, people write about us a lot, so we're very, very conscious of that. We also have this really great opportunity right now where my husband is no longer employed. And
that.
I guess by the government, he's employed now, but we don't have that big job to worry about. And it's been really nice having him home. And as we both are, a lot of our work is based on the road. And so we try very hard to schedule our work travel so that somebody is always home with the kids. Because as anyone who travels for work or is away for work can tell you, it can really throw off the kids' schedules when you're not home a lot. And I just had this really sweet conversation with Penelope just before I started book tour 2 days ago, and I said, I just want to remind you that I'm gonna go on my big book tour tomorrow, and I'm gonna travel all over the country, and I'm gonna talk to lots of people, and then I will come back. And she said, and you always come back.
Oh.
And it's like two emotions, right? It's like, that's so sweet. I'm so glad you recognize that. And then it also kind of makes you feel a little guilty because you're like, you've learned that I travel a lot. And I'm glad that you know I always come back. So, I'm very conscious of how work can pull you away. And it's much harder to say yes to things these days. Because now they're conscious of the fact that you're gone.
Yeah, I think it does get harder as they get older, and they can ask those questions. Yeah. Sounds like Pete's underfoot a lot, too, these days.
Well, Pete's babysitter right now, which I think is really cool. And I think he's really missed that. The first 3 years of their life, he was traveling every week, and I was home with the kids. And, now when I call, he'll be like, oh, man, they were crazy today. And it's like, oh, was it hard?
Tiny violin.
Yeah.
Tiny little violin.
It's like, dude, I had newborn twins with, the bottle maker, and do you know how many diapers I went through in one day, managing 2 kids at the time. Now, you had to drive them to preschool? Was it exhausting?
I mean, admittedly, Chasten, they can say no a lot louder now.
Yes.
I don't know if they can be louder than when they're infants, but...
Yes, every age and stage comes with its own set of challenges. So I will totally give him that. But I also think it's just really cool to see him finally getting to do some of the things that I know he felt bad about missing out on. It's cool to be the one FaceTiming home from work out on the road and seeing all of them together, because it used to be the other way around.
It's really sweet. How about some questions from all these fine people who came to hear about this?
That's great.
So you addressed this a bit, but how do you make sure to connect as a family with both you and Pete having such busy schedules? I mean, for some families, it's when everybody's home, there's dinner at the table. For some families, it's bedtime when, or maybe just different rituals that you have with one parent or the other.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's been particularly helpful?
Well, now, we try to FaceTime each other every day, in the morning and in the evening, when one of us is on the road. But we're at that age, our kids are almost 4, where they don't want to talk to you. So, I'll call, and, Pete will be like, who wants to come say hi to Dad? And they'll, come into the kitchen, and they look up at the phone, and they always go, can I push the red button? They just want to end the FaceTime call.
Snap.
So I'm glad that they're happy and they're safe and they're having a great time, but they don't really want to talk very much on the phone, which I'm okay with because I don't want that to be a constant source of communication with them. Like that's how we bond is through the screen. But a lot of times we call when they're on their way to school so that we're not on a screen, but they can hear my voice in the car. And then they are strapped into a seat, so they have to talk to me for 15 minutes. And then dinner time is very, very conscious about dinner, right? No phones at the dinner, put them away, just to share that very, very special time together.
Burning issue. What do you think of Pete's beard? And maybe more to the point, what do the kids think of Pete's beard? Like, this is an issue when
kids
one
love
parent...
the beard. I love the beard. I'm
okay.
team beard. I get to ask this question every day.
Oh, sorry.
Which is just remarkable. I'll write about it in another book one day.
Not long ago, Chasten, you posted with some guilt that you simply relaxed after a long day instead of doing laundry and other chores.
Yeah.
Are you working on self-care? A grandma wants to know.
I am. Thank you very much. I posted that as a joke, and then the outpouring of people that are like, you're being too hard on yourself was very, very, very sweet. I had posted a video that said I made the biggest mistake you can make after you put your kids to bed. I made a huge parenting fail. I sat down.
Yeah, that's real.
As everyone knows, if you sit down, it's over. It's just over. And they are at that stage right now where it's like you say goodnight, and then they reappear like 2 minutes later, over and over and over again. And if anyone has tips for that, I'll see you at the signing line, because it's like you get to that point where they look like they're half asleep, and you're giving them little kisses on the forehead, and we count to 7, which they've decided. We have to count till 7, and then I can leave the room. We say, "Nana, I love you," 50 times. And then I go downstairs and I start washing the dishes, and then there's like a toddler next to the refrigerator, right? It's just exhausting. It can be really, really exhausting. And so sometimes I sit down and then it's all over. There's nothing you can do about it.
I have to sneak one in here that
Sure.
I thought of last night. Okay, when you live in Traverse City, where in the world do you go for family vacations?
Oh, I mean, this is the hard part about having
thank you.
Yeah, well, a lot of my family lives in Baraga,
Right.
which is just past Marquette, if anyone's familiar with
Yeah.
Baraga, way up there.
They're too young for fish camp.
Yes, we just had our family reunion, which was really cool to take them up there. But Traverse City's so beautiful. And that's the hard part about having work in the summer, is like, who wants to leave Traverse City in the summer? So come visit us sometime. Well, not us. I mean, we don't have that many guest rooms. We'd love to say hi to you, but Traverse City would love to have you as well.
I know a lot of Michiganders who go for that winter vacation instead of a summer vacation, because literally, who wants to leave Traverse City or anywhere in Michigan during the summer? But it's February. That's when you need to get out of there. There was, where was that? Shoot, I'm sorry. I'm a terrible shuffler. Oh, this is a good one. How do you balance the twins' privacy with being a public family? You know, you alluded to the fact that everything's kind of under the microscope.
Yeah. Has anyone read Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation? Terrifying. I was a middle school teacher. I was already pretty conscious of the impacts of social media and digital devices on young brains. And then there's the question of consent. So my kids can't consent to having their pictures on the internet, and I try very hard never to post their faces on the internet.
Yeah.
I have also seen some of the worst in politics when people have already created digital AI deepfakes of our family, and as much as I can protect them from that, I will. I just think there's a level of privacy there that I'm pretty strict about. And I get where people come from when they say, I want to see more pictures of those kids, because they're really happy for you and they want to see that happiness, and they care. But I think there is a level of privacy that I have to afford them as long as I can. Yeah. And I remember when we went to the White House Easter egg roll, I was so excited to take them to the Easter egg roll. And the moment we walked out of the White House, there was like a sea of cameras. It was open press, and I had completely forgotten about it. And I was having a panic attack right there on the south lawn of the White House. I didn't know what to do. I froze, and sure enough, the next morning, our kids were on the cover of the Washington Post, and it kind of freaked me out. Like we have to give them privacy as much as we can. So that's the only time where I feel like my dad claws come out when the cameras come out, just because I want to give them as much privacy as I can. But I also understand that people are really interested in what your family's doing, and it's a really hard tightrope to walk sometimes. And I'll be honest, I haven't figured it out yet, but it's something I'm conscious of every single day.
Yeah, the struggle is real for all families, I think, with that question of images. It's really...
I just don't know who owns all that data.
No kidding.
The pictures of your children, it is not private.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to be really conscious of it. And I also think we have to remind ourselves what those images are for. So my mom knows I tell a story. It's we have a great Christmas, and then she'll say I want to post all these pictures from Christmas on the internet. And I say well, we don't have to do that, right? So, I want my friends to see what a beautiful Christmas we had. Well, did you have a beautiful Christmas? We don't have to put it on the internet because it's going to be on the internet forever. And then sure enough, those pictures pop up in other places, or they pop up in news articles where you haven't given them permission to have that photo. But you just have to be really careful of that data and privacy.
That's true. This is a little less germane to the book, but somebody wrote to ask about local theaters. And a theater in their region that was forced to close.
Oh, no.
Due to funds that were promised but not paid because of the current administration. Is there anything that you hope teachers and parents can be mindful of in advocating for the arts in our communities? I know this is something you care about a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I think especially in this moment of politics that we need the arts more than ever. One of the things I'm really enjoying about the book tour is this opportunity to be with other families and parents and community members for just 1 hour to laugh. You're allowed to laugh. You deserve joy. It is okay to let your shoulders down just a little bit, because if you're constantly on the defense or constantly tied in, especially online, to what is happening outside, what's happening in Washington, it feels like a burning bus going down the hill that you can't pull away from, that you have to watch. But it is also really important to do things that feed your soul, that make you smile, that remind you of the goodness in other people and our shared humanity. And where else can you get those but in the arts? So I hope that we all collectively can refocus some of our energy on the local, supporting your local theater, supporting your local library, paying attention to the things that are happening at your city council or your school board meeting. Not to be that boring guy, but one night I was curious about what was happening in Traverse City Public Schools. My kids aren't even old enough to be in the public schools yet, but I just pulled up a school board meeting. And sure enough, there's one of those characters at the school board meeting attacking librarians, attacking teachers, making sweeping judgments about students who are LGBTQ. And there weren't a lot of people there. And so it was a great reminder, you can be that person. You could be that community member that goes to the school board meeting and speaks up on behalf of the librarians and the teachers or the local queer community. It doesn't always have to be getting into a Twitter fight with people about what's happening in Washington. It can also be about linking arms with the people in your own community and supporting the things that remind us of our shared humanity, like our library, like our local music organizations, like our local theater. And I think we just need that now more than ever to just remind us why we're here in the first place, why we're all in this big American project together. And as a student of the theater, I think theater is where I learned how to be a listener and how to be empathetic and compassionate and think about other people and my place in the world. And so I wish that every kid had access to really good theater education, and I wish that every community had access to a really well-funded community theater.
Yeah. I know. Yes, please. Thank you. I know we have littles in the room. I want to make sure we.
I know that was so boring, wasn't it? I'm so sorry.
No. I just mean. Just one more question, then we'll get to the book signing. And
Already? Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, gosh. Yeah, seriously. Someone in the audience who just said, "I'm so happy you're here." I'm sure
thank
echoing
you.
what we all feel. Can you think of a particularly highest moment about becoming two dads together? And I think I'm going to interpret that question as like emotional high. You know, just the biggest.
Oh my, it's I always wanted to be a dad. As Pete reminds me, came on a little too strong on the first date and mentioned I wanted to be a dad.
Oh.
And I had always felt like I was a good teacher, I was good at what I did, but I just felt like I was meant to be a dad. And for a long time, thought that dream would never come true. And it has been everything that I imagined and more, and nothing like I imagined and more.
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it is also like the most purpose-driven thing I've ever done. It gives me such purpose. And I feel like coming out of the last, Pete and I have been together for 10 years, and we've been on many journeys together. And as someone who was always trying to find purpose in the work, when Gus and Penelope came along, I felt like I knew exactly what I was doing with my life. That I didn't have to be the best author, or I didn't have to be the best advocate, or maybe I wouldn't be the best political spouse. That I went through this hurricane of opinion about whether you were enough or whether you were too much. And then I felt like I held Gus and Penelope, and it all just went away for a while. It creeps back in, but when I am able to put my phone away, when I am able to really unplug from the world of opinion and politics, they make me so aware, not just of how incredible they are, but just how incredible life can be. I constantly feel the struggle to be good, to be a better writer, to be a better husband and son, and to be a better advocate. And to speak up more, and there will always be someone telling you that you're not doing it right. And if I can silence those voices for a little bit and get down to their level, when we're building whatever creative or imaginative world we're building with the rocks and the sticks and the mud, and I am able to solve the puzzle that Gus can't solve with the sticks and how to get them to line up. And you finally step in and say, what if we did it this way? And we finally have created like the little hut out of sticks and rocks. And he looks at you like you are Superman. It's the best feeling in the world to just know that you're everything that they need, especially when the world feels so loud. And it makes me so grateful for everything that we have. And that's what I hoped would come across in this book. Like I said, I didn't want to write like this like lessons-driven book, but there is a little spinach under the sugar in this book. That it really is the love within the home that makes it a home. It's not all the stuff. It's not, the kids think Papa's so excited to come home to the cake and the books and the model airplane and his favorite cheese and his bicycle, and he just says like the best part about coming home is you, and that I truly feel that in life, that Gus and Penelope just make me so aware of the things that really matter. And so for that, I will use a musical theater quote: I have been changed for good.
Oh. Is everybody receiving this? Everybody receiving that one loud and clear? Chasten Buttigieg is the author of Papa's Coming Home. Might I mention that Father's Day is right around the corner? If there's a family with two dads that you know,
or any dad.
Maybe you need two books.
Any dad.
Any dad. Or two moms, or really anybody who could use a little lift in their parenting and a really sweet story to read to the kids. What you and Pete have done just by being who you are in a public space is a significant personal sacrifice. And I just really want to thank you for everything your family is doing.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the support. I hope you love the book. Happy Father's Day. Happy Pride. And I'll see you at the signing table. And thanks for supporting your local library and your independent bookstore. So take care.
Thank you again. Chasten will be over here signing books if you guys want to line up over at this table here. And you do need to have the Post-it note on there if you want it to be personalized.